Hi, my name is Brad Paulson. I'm with Iowa City Summer of the Arts, and I'm here today with Wendy Ford, a jewelry designer and longtime art fair exhibitor. And we're here to talk to you about the Emerging Artist Pavilion. To tell you a little bit about the pavilion, it was created to provide an opportunity for young Iowa artists to showcase their talents at a major art fair and to help them gain experience as a professional artist. So Wendy, when the artist arrives at the pavilion, what can they expect to find?
Well, at the pavilion, there'll be spaces for each artist under one large tent. And that's different than when you're an artist on your own and doing your own individual setups. And it's actually kind of nice because having the tent there is a big first step in having your exhibit ready to go. Then we're going to also have three walls for artists to display their work or to use as a backdrop if it's the type of work or three-dimensional work that can't be hung on those walls.
Right.
There will be 3 6-foot folding tables in each booth, and there will be 2 folding chairs for each booth and the exhibitors that are there to display that work. There will also be 2 signs with artist names and the media that they're exhibiting.
Right. I think we're also going to include the school that they're from as well.
Okay,
so
great.
people can find out where these artists are coming from. So how would that contrast to a booth that, say you would set up for yourself at an art fair?
Well, the big difference is that tent itself. As you know, most art fairs are made up of rows and rows of 10-foot by 10-foot white tents. Some of them are heavy duty, some of them are not so heavy duty, but regardless, they're a big expense in any artist's professional art life, so to speak, in business.
So the artists in a normal art fair would have to provide their own tent?
Yes, their own tent, weights to keep it anchored to the ground, or stakes to keep it into the ground if it's a lawn type of display. The walls on which to display their 2-dimensional work, their tables on which to display their 3-dimensional work.
Right. I should mention to the artists that in the Emerging Artist Pavilion we will have side flaps that come down at the end of the day to secure the artwork and keep it weatherproof. We will have roaming security at the festival, but there will not be a specific person posted to the pavilion, so anything of true value that they would want to take away, should probably do so.
Yes, that's correct.
So why don't we talk about ideas to set up and display your artwork in the booth?
Well, here's where your creativity as an artist really has to kick into play, and especially because every display opportunity is a little bit different. One of the keys is being able to be flexible, and I brought along a couple of things to show. Actually, I think the most important thing is to be able to make your booth space look nice, is to have good table coverings and many ways to use those table coverings. And as you can see here, I've got a couple of remnant pieces of fabric that I picked up at the local fabric store, and I use them to drape over different display levels so that my customers can look at different levels of artwork. I may want to highlight a piece by having it higher on a pedestal underneath one of my table coverings, or I may have a piece of pottery that's the best that I've ever done that I want to set apart from the rest. I want to think about my booth really as a composition. So being able to lead my customer's eye from one area to another
Right.
through my exhibit is really very important.
Right, because in the pavilion especially, the people will be coming through and sort of making a loop, and there should be a flow to your own booth for sure. Now what about artists that are doing 2-dimensional media like painting or photography? What could you do there? When
you have a framed item and you want to hang this on one of the 3 walls that you're provided in the Emerging Artist booth, I think one of the best things to do and easiest is to use a simple S-hook about this size that simply hooks over the back cabling on your frame and then over the grid wall within the booth. Now, one thing to make this a little bit more secure would be to use an S-hook on either side through the hardware that's on the back of the frame. This way you're guaranteed that the artwork won't be pivoting and swinging off the one point, but rather will have two and be more secured. If you have unframed work, such as the print that I have here, first is very important to have that work covered. There's nothing like the frame and the glass protecting the artwork as is in here. So you can buy these cellophane sleeves, which help because people like to pick up artwork and look at it. But it also provides a nice surface on which you can mount those little foam hooks that you can buy in the hardware store to hang your tea towels,
Right.
etc., in your kitchen without damaging your wall. So you apply one of those hooks here, or even better, two hooks, so that you can then have the anchor to which you can use an S-hook or maybe even a lighter weight pin to attach that work to those walls.
Right. I've also seen artists at art shows take a work like this and have it in a box that people can leaf through, so you can maybe display certain prominent ones and have extras or additional.
Sure. Many times artists will have an original piece of artwork and they'll have prints made and they'll get a bin to display those prints. And again, probably the most important thing, Brad, is that there be some sort of protection around all of that artwork, such as the cellophane
Right.
or the frame. People in art shows tend to have dirty hands.
Absolutely.
And you want to protect that artwork as much as you can.
Absolutely. Why don't we talk a little bit about promoting your work? Because I know many artists are a little self-conscious about talking about their own work. What would you recommend there?
Well, there's a very static way of just having your business cards out and available so that people can take those and get an idea that you're Brad Paulson and you're a woodworker.
Sure.
And here's how you contact you. But it's always good to be ready to have more of a discussion with your customers than that. Probably the easiest way to start in a discussion with somebody about your artwork, somebody that you don't know, is to talk about the technique. Are you using chalk? Are you
Great
using
idea.
pastel? Are you using watercolor? Or what sort of clay is it that you're using in your ceramics?
Sure. Yeah, that can be a segue to then talk about your work rather than just the artwork. Because I
Right.
think the public is engaged and they do want to know about what you're up to.
Yeah, people love to know the technique that you're using, but they're also very interested in what inspires you. Putting that into words can be difficult, though.
Yes.
So one way to prepare yourself for that is to think about an artist statement. And there are about three key points in developing an artist statement that you want to think about. And those are simply to talk about the kind of work you do and why you do it. Do you like, in my case, melting glass? Or do you like taking a landscape and getting it on a two-dimensional surface? Then tell the reader about how you make decisions in the course of what you're doing. What's your art? Do you want to create a mood? Do you want to create a shimmer? What is it that you're deciding along the way in your artwork that makes it yours? And then lastly, you want to, in an artist statement, tell the reader a little bit about your current work. And this also may give them some insight into where you've come and where you'd like to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because where you like to go is what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk also more about the practical side of being a professional artist, selling your work, getting commissions, pricing strategies. What
Sure.
can we say there?
It takes a little while to get this right. Obviously, when you have items priced high, you're probably going to sell fewer of those. Well, if that's the case, then try to maximize the benefit of that, and that is having people really admire your more expensively priced work, but also be ready to talk about commissions. For
Absolutely.
example, ask that customer, could I do a custom piece much like this or in this style for you? try to work that into the conversation.
Hence the importance of a business card.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
some contact information.
Right. It might also be helpful if yours is higher priced work to have a portfolio of all of your work so that you can have a broader selection to show somebody who may be a potential commission for you what kinds of other work
Certainly,
you do.
and that is something that you can display in your booth so people can flip through and talk to you about it.
Certainly. Don't make the portfolio the centerpiece of your booth,
Sure.
but have it readily available so that you can speak more from that.
Right. And what about folks who are selling lower priced merchandise that would be easily picked up by a patron at an art fair?
Sure. I think here it's really important to have a nice range. We try to have something in the $8 to $10 range as well as in the $140 range or so in our booth, and that helps accommodate the kid who'd like to buy a bookmark for his sister's birthday, or the wife who'd like to buy their husband a birthday present as well. So
sure.
having something in all these price ranges help. And one way, if you don't have the lower priced items that you make, one way to do this in two-dimensional work especially would be to take what you think might be one of your most appealing pieces and reduce that to the size of a note card and sell note cards of some of your favorite favorite pieces. Those could go for as little as $1.50 with an envelope, or $2.
Right.
So.
And what about the exchange of currency? What are the options that they could avail themselves of?
There's several things to think about in terms of your cash box, we call it. My husband and I keep all of our spare change handy in a cash box like this, but then on the day of the show we usually try and get $100 in bills so that we can make change for folks who come in with a 50, so to speak. And the first couple of times I was not right on with what I needed, and my advice would be to get a lot of ones, at least 20 ones, and to get a lot of fives, at least 12 fives, and you only need a couple of tens or so at the most. So shoot for about $100 on that.
Because I think it's important to realize that if you're going to be at an art fair, you need to man your booth, and you can have someone cover you for short periods of time, but you really want to be there to make these transactions and talk. So you won't have a lot of time to go running out for things like spare cash.
Right, exactly. Get prepared the day before, because the day of setup is more work than you can imagine, actually.
Yes. And what about other forms of payment?
Well, we do accept checks in our booth, and I think the important thing there is to make sure that the check has an address and a phone number, a local phone number for the person that you are going to entrust, and that's completely up to you. We have never had a check bounce in our 12 years of doing art shows.
So what about credit cards? Is that an option?
Yeah, actually accepting credit cards is easier now than it's ever been before. A lot of us have smartphones, and there are applications, there are several out there, and you might want to Google accepting credit cards with a smartphone, and you'll get all kinds of answers. But let me tell you about the one my husband and I use. We use Square.com, which is a very simple application that you download to your smartphone, and you put a little card reader into the same spot you would put your headphones in your phone. When your customer comes along, you very easily are able to swipe that card like this, and after that you can put in the customer's item number. The customer can get an email or a text receipt, and you have a record that goes to your own Square.com website.
Right.
Now, in fact, we use Square.com for cash and credit card tracking of all of our sales. It's really nice because it will do the math for you on your 7% tax, at least here in Iowa City, that you're responsible for. And then when we get home from the show, we can go to Square.com on our home computer and take a look and get all the information on the time of each transaction, the amount, what it was, and the security of Square.com is wonderful. We are not even able to see anything but the last 4 digits of the cardholder's number.
Right.
So that the security issue shouldn't be a problem at all for them.
Sure. Yeah, it is quite amazing the things that are available to an artist nowadays, including social media and promoting yourself. You want to talk about Facebook and these sorts of things?
Right, yeah, many things have been made much easier by the internet, and promoting yourself is one of those. If you have Twitter, Facebook, or a LinkedIn account, see if you can make links to the overall festival website, in this case, the Summer of the Arts Art Fair website. Create a link to that and send out to your friends and their friends, if you can do that, an invitation to this event, and tell them you're going to be showing for the first time your artwork in downtown Iowa City.
Absolutely. It's a cost-free way really to promote your work, so why wouldn't you take advantage of that?
Exactly, and I think that artists who've been doing this for a long time do that. When everybody can do that, you get all the more feet in the street, and that's ultimately what we're looking for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we should also talk about the old school networking while you're at the show with other artists in the pavilion, or other artists at the show in general, the public.
Right. One of the best ways to understand this world of exhibiting at art shows is to talk to other people who do it. So talk to people who are new at doing it like you, exchange ideas on what could make it better for you, but almost as importantly, maybe more importantly, would be to talk to people who have been doing it for a while.
Sure, absolutely.
One of the things I found very interesting when I first started was I do jewelry, and a jeweler friend of mine came up and said, you know, you're pricing this way too low. This is much better work than that, considering the materials you're using. So it was another artist doing the same kinds of things that I'm doing that suggested to me, taught me to price my work a little bit better.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things that you can only gain by talking to someone who has the experience.
Right.
And I think you will find exhibiting in the Emerging Artist Pavilion that there is a real community spirit there. We're all sort of in the round, and you will spend a large part of the day talking to the other artists in the exhibit. And certainly I would encourage you to go out, you know, at lunchtime or whatever, and talk to other artists at the fair and find out what they have to say. Well, I think we've covered just about everything. We hope that this has been helpful to you as a young artist. And if you would like more information, you feel free to check out our website, and there'll be other links on there as well. And we look forward to having you at the show.
You're watching City Channel 4. On TV, online, on demand, on Facebook, and now on the go on your mobile device.